podcast. Today we have some awesome lore fans who are going to be coming on, and we're going to be talking about all the things that we're tired of talking about. Yeah, it's going to be fun. Hello, my esteemed guests. Thank you so much for joining me here on the High Ground Podcast. I'm excited to jump into the things that we're tired of talking about, mostly because it's kind of fun to talk about it with other people who are tired of talking about it. At least that's my experience. Um, yes, I want to get started. We're going to go around the room and have you guys introduce yourself. So I'm asking everyone, who are you? Where can we find your content? And what's the weirdest cameo that we could get in an upcoming Star Wars project? Could be Andor, could be anything else that's popping up in the future. What is the weirdest cameo you think we might possibly get? And I'll go to Terrace first.
Hello there. Yeah, that's getting old. I'm the Jedi, always on TikTok. You can find me primarily there as well as Instagram. I'm starting to branch out a bit more. I make Star Wars content about typically Jedi, lightsabers, that sort of thing. And weirdest cameo, I don't know if in the casting, and I don't know if with the Andor show, but maybe we could get Dirge at some point somewhere else aside from the Afro series. You
Yeah,
just pop up somewhere.
that would be cool. Where would you want to see him?
Something animated. I think Dirge is probably best animated as opposed to live action.
As soon as you said Dirge, I never even thought about this, but I would love to see Din Djarin going after like something, and then like the kill gets stolen from him by Dirge, and he's just like, "All right, man, you win," and like he has to go home empty-handed or something like that.
I kind of
That'd
feel
be
like it'd be
awesome.
cool to have like the War of the Bounty Hunters on the Mandalorian. Like if Din is going after a score, so is everyone else. We get Valance, we get Dengar, we get Dirge.
Like a rat race type of vibe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you say Rat Race, and I just think of the movie Rat Race, which is a different vibe than that. But
No, that's what that's what I was referring to because just everyone going after something, but
yeah,
it gets crazy.
Zuckus is like, I'm prairie dogging it. Yeah, that's. How about you, Harvey?
Walker on TikTok. That's the main platform. Post whatever I'm feeling, really, because it sees something that I'm motivated to make a video on. I'll make a video on it, or if someone asks an interesting question, and that's most of my content. As far as my mind instantly goes off to some like offshoot rebel organ or something like that, who would show up in a new show like as characters. My mind goes there, or I mean the possibilities for cameos are endless with Andor. Really. Who knows?
Yeah, absolutely. And how about you, Pep?
I am Element7 on TikTok underscore Element7 underscore gang. One half of the dyad and the Force. On Saturdays, 5 p.m. Pacific, we're gonna be doing. Hopefully, if I can secure some folks that I'm trying to secure, Rebels Rewind for this Saturday. Weirdest. I'm gonna go with weirdest. Andor, Niebuhr Gascon.
I mean, we don't know if he survived. Oh, I mean, there's a pre-order 66. Yeah, we could run into him early.
I just want to see a live action Niebuhr Gascon. It's gonna be the weirdest thing ever.
No, that is a perfect choice. I would also. I mean, I want to see more. Okay, here's my weird one, and I'm gonna go with the Acolyte. And if in the Acolyte we run into the Eye of Webbish Bog,
Oh,
Makes sense.
I think that could be it could be reasonably possible. Also, I just want to say shout out to all the people we have chilling here in the chat. This has been an interesting conversation, so we'll actually we'll let them chat up here. We had Christian White. This is the first time been able to catch, so we want to welcome Christian White. Galactic Mermaid was excited when she saw the title. We got holy crap, Darth Harvey is here, which is awesome. Thank you for staying.
I didn't think
late.
many people would see me, being UK.
Yes. We got Darth Veritas. How's it going, buddy? We'll get you on here if I'll need to do like a weekend earlier stream or something like that. I know you're busy working. I even got Voidless here, who is actually my little brother, my young little brother. But yeah, don't say my name. A great panel from Dixon Download. We have Julia Christine, who says, "Who all?" Yeah. And Meeber Gaskin is just in the background from some cantina, which is actually a really easy place where we could start getting some of these cameos. But all right, let's go ahead and start jumping into it, and I'll call out your guys' suggestions as you're making them here in the chat. But I gotta ask everyone, what got you started making Star Wars content? What got you in here to begin with? How's the journey been? And do you have plans of where it's going in the future? And I'll just open it up, so anyone jump out.
Well, I got started because I was on TikTok primarily to just like kill time because it was the pandemic, right? I think that's how everybody got started. We were just indoors looking for something to do, and I downloaded TikTok. I was like, what is this thing that everyone's on? What are the youngins doing these days? And then, for the first few days, it was girls dancing and just like some funny videos that you would normally see, like if you remember the Vine days. And then suddenly I like landed on, this is how people make conspiracy theories about the phones listening to you. Suddenly I landed on like the Fandom Menace. And then I was like, people, clamoring for George Lucas to come back, complaining about the sequels. And I think at this point it was like 2019. So like The Rise of Skywalker was just kind of like a couple of months in the past. So the complaints were still kind of fresh. And my first TikTok video in this regard, like of me making content, was telling them to STFU. Because like, hey, if you remember the prequel days, y'all bullied George Lucas out. And so like when the sequels come out, you can't be like, we want George Lucas back. So that's how I started. And then I started answering comments about like Star Wars lore and questions from the movies that I was like, it started largely from the sequels, right? Because there was a lot of things that people were like misunderstanding in the sequels or didn't have explanations for, even though they were in the movies. So I started doing that. And then I started answering more broad spectrum Star Wars questions, and then I became the guy that was like answering all these questions and knew everything about Star Wars. And my plans for where it goes in the future, Dyad Studios.
Absolutely. Yeah. And how about you, Harvey? What got you started?
Well, to be honest, I was making videos, but I wasn't uploading them. I was just sending them to like the two friends. So I thought I would make them public. And now more online friends that I can talk Star Wars with. So that's very nice.
Yeah. And it also your audio cuts in and out like at the end of your sentences. I'm not sure if it's like a noise gate or something like that.
Yeah.
If you go into the settings here, you may want to look on like audio, and if you see noise suppression, turn that off. It might be like a noise gate type thing. But yeah, do you have any content related plans that you have for the future?
Nothing big, but I'm sure there'll be a lot of awesome when I'm across the pond in November. Disneyland for the first, very nice, very cool.
Nice. So you're coming here to California? Okay. We might have to do something, get something going. That's awesome. Yeah, and you, Terrace?
Oh, I think like the first thing I posted was like a joke, using like it was first thing I posted that really kicked off was just like a little meme joke about someone saying someone talking about like the Avatar movie that doesn't exist, and I used like Kylo saying I want every gun to fire on that man. That was like the first thing I posted that kicked off. But after that, I slowly started posting more and more. Then I pointed out a detail in The Mandalorian. There was a reference to the Western tombstone, and like everybody ate that up, and then it motivated me to keep making more and more content. And then it just kind of kicked off from there. I think like I noticed that I'm like, well, I love talking about lightsabers and like the lightsaber combat, so I figured, you know what, just keep talking about that, and then just so on and so forth, I suppose.
Yeah. Real quick in the chat, I got the Jedi Smart Malik saying, "I'm tired of explaining why Ked Penchaclop is the best." Ked Penchaclop, if you don't know, is a deeper cut, but in a deleted scene, we see his little naked, amoeba-looking ass. So that's a whole thing. Black Man says Voss helping Andor with a thriving something, and then he name drops Ventress. If they name drop Ventress,
That'd be cool.
yeah.
I recently finished Dark Disciple.
Are you okay?
No, I'm very much dead inside. But the book was like, it was phenomenal. Aside from my I made a video about this. My only issues with it were how Mace Windu was portrayed. He was like way more like villainous than normal.
Sorry, go ahead. Sounds like you're gonna say something, Pep.
I was just gonna comment on like whether or not they were going to mention Ventress. Like you saw my reaction, or a lot of people's reactions. I'll shout out Cal's too. When they just said Quinlan was here, and I was like, the name, and then I just lost it.
I freaked out a bit.
Yeah, so if at all there is a side glance or side mention to Asajj, I'm gonna lose it too.
Yeah, I'm gonna get some. Yeah, that would be amazing.
It's a little different. You sound a little muffled now, Choco.
Mm-hmm.
My mic.
There we go. That's
okay.
Better.
All right. I will eat it, and I will speak like this. No, it's
But
make sure my
someone
settings
said that Dark Disciple is the kinkiest Star Wars book, and yeah,
there.
yeah.
I mean, I don't read much fan fiction, but I assume there was a lot that was spawned off of that book. That's what I'll say. And then in regards to it, Harris Production says we don't speak about Mark Thompson's Mace Windu voice in Dark Disciple.
Oh, good God! Thank God I'm not the only one who had a problem with that. That was just weird. That was so weird.
I don't know. I wish he talked like that all the time.
I
He's
hated
too
it.
dangerous to be left alive.
Honestly, Chaka, whenever you do a Mace Windu impression, sometimes it like slants into a southern accent. So I don't know if it's like a thing that happens.
I mean,
I
it's
never hear
mostly
that out of
intentional.
Samuel Jackson.
But go ahead.
But it was like the last part of your question is like where do I want to take the being a Star Wars content creator as far as I possibly can, I guess. Like it'd be nice like to if I got to meet other Star Wars actors because of this.
Yeah. Yeah, originally, my goal was like, as I want to get enough so that like Lucasfilm recognizes me, right? And then we hit that, and I'm like, now I want them to ask me to interview actors. That's the
I
goal.
would love to do that. Like that sounds phenomenal. Like that reminds me of what RDC World is doing. If anyone knows of them,
Yeah.
I
They
don't know
make
them,
they
but
make like the skits that are like anime based.
anime based NBA, that they're ridiculously funny. But like they started off doing skits and whatnot, but then they've met the people they've done skits about. Like they've met LeBron James a few times.
You might have seen one skit where I think it was like a
Oh,
One Punch Man type of like skit, or it was like the Power of Anime skit where like they just kept on punching each other, but like it was like from different animes. Like they would do like the wind up from a different anime, and it would just flash the anime name on the screen, and then they would punch the other dude. I forget like
no,
the specifics.
I'll have to check it out though. Big anime fan, so yeah. All right. Well, yeah. So, I mean, it has me thinking of like Theories by T. Tyrell does get to interview a lot of people, but friends of the channel like Megan J Stubes, um, gets to do that now, and like that's just super cool. And hopefully, maybe someday we'll get there. But for now,
yeah,
we're
Star
just
Wars. Yeah, this like the Star Wars. Like they're. I've never really seen them reach out to too many guests like that aren't associated. That when it wasn't really associated directly with something Disney related. Like I know they invited so many creators out to like the cruise line.
yeah.
Not,
So
not us.
we're working on it.
Oh
We'll get there.
yeah.
Uh, so I mean, what's been the coolest thing that has come out of content creation for you guys though?
For me, they would probably be when Lauren Mary Kim, who was the mocap actor for Ahsoka during the fight with Maul, she's commented on like a few of my posts when I've mentioned like that how phenomenal that fight was because it was so good, and I really need to talk about that more.
That's sick. That is
Yeah,
awesome.
no, and especially with her being a martial artist, that's like a really kind of a big deal for me.
Yeah. How about you, Arthur? Harvey? I
um,
mixed Harvey and Walker.
quickly for the audience. Yeah. The noise suppression thing, I can't turn it off because I might if it's bad, I'll switch browsers. But you can't see it, but that piece of paper that's just dangling on the wall is printed out of Mark Hamill commenting on one of my videos. So the best thing for me.
Nice.
Lucky.
Yeah, you bastard. No, when Mark Hamill duetted with the Dreaded Pirate, I was just like, when's it gonna be my turn? But we're still out here living. I know for Julia Christine, Pablo Hidalgo knows who she is, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I did have when I did my mall rap, which is somewhere on my channel. I did post it on Twitter as well, and so Sam Whitwer, liked it, retweeted it, and then months after that, Snoop Dogg made a Star Wars rap on the same music, on the same sound, and then Matt Martin of the story group found my video and then liked it, which is like, I don't know. I may have inspired Snoop Dogg, but I don't know. I can't take credit for
I
that. Well,
I'd take credit for that, Choco. Like take that W. Take that W.
but yeah, I mean, also getting to hang out with all these different people and like have these conversations on a regular basis has just been super duper cool. Um, yeah, there's been a lot of benefits to the content creation, and it's still going. Now, if unless you were living under a rock, you've probably seen, Straw Hat Goofy, getting real. There's been a lot of stitches on it, and so that kind of prompted me to ask this question: is what do you wish other people knew about creating content and like what it's like and the energy you guys put into it? What do you wish other people knew?
I'll go first, and then I'll answer the previous question.
Oh, my bad.
One of the best things that's happened to me, I have a generic answer, which is not really generic in spirit, but it's just being able to make friends online and then subsequently meet them in person. It's such a great opportunity, and like it's something that I didn't know I needed so much of, because when it happened, I was like, oh man, I miss everyone already. And when I guess I'm not on the same level as you guys, but I did like becoming friends with a Star Wars author is really, really cool, because that's one more a Star Wars author friend that I had before. Being able to go to Celebration and just being like and talking to DJO about if he needs coffee, and then at the end of his panel deliver that coffee, and then after that we're hanging out at the fountain and DJO comes out and just like, what's up everybody? So I mean, I include him 110% in this community and in this like family of creators, because he just like hangs out, he's just a regular person. Of course that's how everybody is, but that was really cool. The one thing that I wish people knew or understood about being a content creator is that negativity is expected, but it's not a requirement. And what that means is a lot of people are negative just to be negative, and then when you're like, man, I'm tired of this, they're like, well, you're a creator, you should expect it, or you should accept it. I'm like, no, I don't have to. It's not required of me to accept anything. You know, you could be nicer.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah. How about you guys?
One thing I want them to know about being a content creator, you'll find yourself comparing yourself to your peers and just other content creators of a similar vein and whatnot. And that can be a good thing and a bad thing at the same time, because I'm at like, I think like 40K, while like there's so many other creators, present company included, that dwarf me in comparison, and we do similar content from time to time. And sure, like the quality, there may be a difference in quality, but whatever. But that feeling of like there's a feeling of there's an inevitable feeling of inadequacy that will come with being a creator, because you'll notice how your views are tanking and everyone else's are relatively fine. A good day for you is a bad day for like a bigger creator, that type of thing. Well, don't get me wrong, I love making content and I'm going to continue. It's still a pain. Like it's a juggling act, I suppose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely feel that. How about you, Harvey? Can we hear you?
Hopefully.
Yep, I can hear you.
Yeah. Probably sometimes people think it's all one take and you make a video and like, sometimes I can be sat there for 15 minutes recording the same clip, trying to get it. And I think that, you know, sometimes when some people who don't make videos think that it's just very quick and easy, when sometimes it, it's not so much.
A lot of people don't know that sometimes it can take hours. If you're doing something that is like increased production value, you know, you have to edit the videos, and you want to include clips or images. You know,
Music.
you could do music. You could do like the quick and dirty with like TikTok's tools and stuff, but like some people spend time on their stuff, and it could be hours. And like some people think that you're just taking like 10 seconds out of your day to record a 10-second TikTok. Sometimes that takes 2 minutes, and if you record a 3-minute video, sometimes that took like 2 hours, and it's a lot of work.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Yeah.
and we don't get paid like YouTubers. That's also a thing.
Yeah.
I would say we don't get paid.
Yeah. We don't get paid. Like,
I think last month I had like 3 million views accumulatively, and that brought in $13.
Yeah. I mean, in the early days, the pay was actually not terrible, but
Yeah.
like what they did is they had a single pool of money, and then depending on your contribution to that pool, that's what they pay out from. And so it's a very it ends up being very little for most of us. You know, for me, the thing I wish for people to understand is that it's not ever. I'm here to help create community, right? That's my goal, right? It's not the size of my page or anything like that. It's community, and I'm not entitled to interact. I don't have to interact with people. There are people who like I don't want to interact with you, and that's okay. You know, if you and that's not to say, oh, if you don't agree with me, then you know, yada yada yada. I guess maybe I should I should change the thing to I actually choose words very specifically, and just because I say one thing does not mean the opposite thing is true. I guess that's another thing I would say. If I say I like a movie, it doesn't mean I hate a different movie. It just simply means I like that. I guess there's a few things, but
you gotta be really like you have to be really specific with what you say on the clock app because
especially when you're trying to fit it into a single minute or under a minute. And so you'll get 1,000 replies that all say the same thing because and then you have to
I guess I understand this kind of like long sigh from Jedi because like my first kind of like deluge of content from Terrace was before I followed him. Like the FYP was just like going ham on his videos, and it was just nothing but like, you seem to misunderstand what I'm saying. Like every new video from him was someone misunderstanding him, and I thought I was watching the same video 5 times. And I'm just like,
it's
you
not
seem
fair.
to misunderstand. This is not what I meant. I did not say that, and so it was just like.
It's funny because it's sadly true. So many people, I'm pretty sure those are probably around like when I was talking about Darth Maul and like him fighting and whatnot. Like, oh my god, so many people were saying that like or thought I was saying that he was better than Sidious or that he beat Sidious. No, I was just saying I think he's the best martial artist, just overall speaking.
Mhm.
Oh,
yeah. All right. Well, speaking of that conflict, let's get into the things we are most tired of talking about. So, we'll kind of have each person pick one, and then we'll all discuss that one and kind of keep going like that. But Terrace, looked like you had something that already on the top of your mind.
well, it's
What
the
do we got?
videos I've been talking about recently. The Jedi didn't kidnap kids, or that, and they didn't make the clones. Why do people genuinely think that the Jedi made the clones? I don't understand where that discourse is coming from. If you paid attention to Attack of the Clones, which was meant for kids, by the way, you see that Dooku and Sidious were the ones who made the clones. Like, where's the disconnect?
Yeah, it's wild. What are your thoughts on that, Harvey?
Well, to be honest, when I was a kid, I didn't really the whole, especially the Phantom Menace. Like as a kid, I never even understood that taxation of trade routes goes over my head. But as for yeah, I mean, I don't. I'm with you.
Yeah, and sorry, you are still breaking up a lot. Um,
Yeah,
It's just, I blame Matt Patton Film Theory.
Just a
They,
bit.
they did multiple videos on like, are the Jedi really evil? And they made like this sideways remark about the Jedi kidnapping kids, and I'm just like, that's never. There's no source in the history of Legends or canon that suggests they did this.
There's
Nowhere.
there's potentially one thing that people cite for the Jedi, or there's two things that they could cite, but they never cite one of them, which is that Mace Windu and Jar Jar Binks episode. No one brings that up, but the first thing people tend to go towards is a comic that was around Mace Windu, and like this a bounty hunter who came back to get a kid. Like the parents sent her to go get the kid, but Mace wound up just bringing the baby back because, or letting her take the baby. I forget which, but they originally agreed for them to take the kid, so therefore not kidnapping.
Yeah.
I've grown to hate that book just a bit.
And like this this argument always kind of like, they always shift the goalposts as well, like where it turns into like, well, they shouldn't be separating the kids from their parents, and the parents shouldn't be making this decision for the kids. Like, those are all valid conversations to have, but it's a different conversation than, do Jedi kidnap kids?
Yes, and yeah, no, they don't.
Yeah.
Like I even like I've like my one of my recent videos I asked, either way, what does this serve the narrative? Like to label the Jedi as kidnappers, what do we really gain from this? I can't really think of anything feasible to get out of that topic.
Well, I mean, I think Julia kind of like hits it on the nose a little bit. It's really religious trauma, and they're trying to
For sure.
kind of paint this picture of the Jedi in a way that aligns with what they believe, all religious orders fall into, and it's just not true.
That is like one of my few issues with when they do call Jedi being a religion, even though it absolutely is. It's just our connotation with that word is not always positive and whatnot. But man, that's one of the things I am tired of explaining.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I definitely feel that. The other thing that I also gets brought up on the subject is a random HoloNet like news drama thing that was meant to build anticipation for the Attack of the Clones film. And that is the whole story of, there was like a natural disaster, a child that was force sensitive was found and brought to the Jedi Order, and then the parents were like trying to sue the Jedi to get the kid back. This was a not canon. B, it was told from the perspective of a HoloNet journalist trying to writing articles, and it was only online but people will cite that as a thing, which is, yeah, it's just, I don't know, it's just funny. But yeah, that one kills me. How about you, Harvey? Do you have one that pops up, something you're tired of explaining?
I'm working on the audio thing on my phone because it's just easier to get things set up with and Safari is just not compliant.
We can hear you, it's just like there's a bit of a delay.
Yeah, there's a
I
delay,
muted
and then the
myself
audio cuts in and out.
Listen to it, and yeah, I heard it. But I did have a couple. I thought about a couple, but I was thinking about. But what I know, one of them, which it's not really talking about, but one thing that it became a bit of a meme for me. I got a Luke Skywalker Return of the Jedi lightsaber, and I made tons of videos with everyone in the comments was always like, "Oh, nice Obi-Wan Kenobi lightsaber." From, I'm like, it's not Obi-Wan's, it's Luke's from Return of the Jedi.
Now that would annoy me. That would very much so annoy me, especially because no, like they're
Yeah.
okay. They're both thin neck sabers, but Luke's is a lot different from Obi-Wan's.
Yeah, there's a lot of cases where I mean they were like are inspired off of one another. I mean,
Yeah.
the real reason is they just were like, hey, here's a box of lightsabers, pick one out. That's why a lot of prequel Jedi have very
Yeah.
similar looking lightsabers. But no, they're not the same, and that does get old, especially if you pull it out and you start getting that comment over and over and over again. But I think it's interesting because I think Star Wars has shifted in that people who grew up with the prequels are the largest portion right now, or at least the most vocal.
Yeah.
And I feel like those people have spent the least amount of time with Luke with that lightsaber.
No, absolutely. You're absolutely right. Growing up, I distinctly remember growing up with Clone Wars and at that time, and the only lightsabers they were making when like for toy lightsabers were Obi-Wan's, Anakin's, and Vader's primarily. Even though Vader had never appeared in Clone Wars until season 7, but you would never see this lightsaber. You wouldn't see any green lightsabers floating around for like I don't know how long, like until I was in like either middle school or high school. I saw one like a Qui-Gon Jinn lightsaber, toy lightsaber pop up. But yeah, no, I'd have to agree with you, Chuck. We don't have too much exposure of Luke with his actual lightsaber, which is one of my complaints with the sequels. But that's another can of worms.
And then Julie Christine, any parent making the decision to raise their child or have someone raise their child with an ideology or belief system can be argued as brainwashing. It's very silly.
No, absolutely.
Yeah, when people say, "Oh, but they're brainwashing," no, they're bringing up these children in the way that they have like long time tested as a successful way to raise force sensitive people. Can you imagine like running like a force sensitive like children's daycare and you have all these children and blocks are floating around and crap? I don't know, that sounds awful. I just love that I mean they have to raise them in ways that they have found to be successful. That's not brainwashing.
Yeah, and it's just if they don't raise these kids, one that they may not their force abilities may not develop, or worst case scenario, a Sith Lord finds them, and
Mm-hmm. Those are the people that actually kidnap kids.
yes, why do people not acknowledge that? It's weird.
Like, I don't like maybe someone like late in their life who is just stumbling on their force sensitivity is feeling edgy and seeks out the Sith Order, but like the Sith aren't going around being like, yes, we'd love to raise your kid around the dark side of the Force. And then your parents are like, gotcha, you can have
That's freaking metal, bro.
Although the Sith do dress better, though, I'm not gonna lie.
I mean, you can be a
yeah.
Jedi and dress that sharp. It's like Anakin did it. Luke
I
did
want
it.
to. That's one conversation I would want to see. Like, when did Anakin like decide to dress that way? It's just like did anyone bring it up? Or...
He saw Depa and her fine looking ass and said, "I'm doing that."
I feel like he got older. He saw one day on a mission like a space hot topic.
who dressed the dark robes? It was Luminara, Depa. There's a lot of them that were in the dark robes before Anakin.
Although there's a single episode when Plo Koon is on the mission with Ahsoka, and they're like going into like the depths. Plo Koon's cloak is sick. You guys have to look at it. It's dark. There's all this like embroidery on it. It's sick.
Speaking of Plo Koon, has anyone seen the concept art of Plo Koon in Luke's outfit?
from the Mandalorian, where
Yeah, from the
he
Mandalorian,
was.
the book where they
Oh,
like no, they drew some. I think it was either Dave or someone drew Plo Koon in that outfit, and he looks cold, like
yeah.
downright cold. Like all the Jedi should wear black. I'm just saying.
And also, I mean, Empress Reyes is a whole mood, like.
Could have been better. It's just it just looked a little too plain. Where's the flair?
I'm a fan of like the tribal armor. That's why Satele Shan is my favorite character. Like that armor
Yeah, that is
fantastic.
that is a definite that is a definite fit. Like absolutely.
You go into like a Jedi temple on Tython, you see all like the weird tan robes, and then you see the Grandmaster in like leathered and tan like guards and stuff. And
Gun
just like,
showing,
is she
like
a warrior princess? What is
yeah,
this?
yeah, no, like that's like my biggest gripe with the Jedi is the outfits, because like God, those tunics are terrible.
Yeah.
They don't care about possessions, and so they only shop at Space Walmart and just get their clothes there. Like,
Satine shopped at least at Ross.
Pep, how about you? What's your
I
first
have a
thing
couple,
that
but
you
we can
tried?
go with one right now, and that it's kind of like dovetailing from indoctrination or brainwashing, and that's basically repression. I don't know what prequel movies these people watched, but they do not teach repression of emotion. Attack of the Clones. I mean, you should have been listening when Anakin was like, Padme's like, or Jedi allowed to love? I thought that was forbidden. It's like attachment is forbidden, possession is forbidden, compassion, which I would define as unconditional love, is central to a Jedi's life. So you could say that we are encouraged to love. And everyone's like, oh, so no emotions. And I'm just like, come on, man. Like that passed right over your head.
Yeah,
And it's largely having to do with the Jedi Code, which is a framework for how you connect with the Force. You should not connect with the Force with emotion clouding your judgment and controlling you. But everyone thinks that everyone wakes up and they're like, good morning, no emotion. Going to the creche? Yes, no emotion. It's like, this is not what's going on here.
I think people probably apply that idea with Mace a lot, because he's like his Mace when his base emotion is just being stoic, and I think some people probably take that. People either take that as emotionless or him just being angry, which is another can of worms. But yeah, I'd have to agree with you, Element, because it is so annoying. Because if that was the case, if the Jedi didn't show emotion, would Julia really be that upset about Corky Kreese? There would nothing. There'd be nothing there. Excuse me, Corky Kenobi. But yeah, no, I really doubt a woman like Satine would fall for Obi-Wan if he was not allowed to show emotion. Like they're always they show emotion. They emote like regular people, because they more or less are. They're not emotionless blahs of gray.
Yeah. And Hoodberry's in the chat said, Anakin just said that so he could hit. I don't disagree, but there's truth to what he says. Look, I mean, Yoda in training the younglings, use your feelings. You must. Obi-Wan to Luke, stretch out with your feelings. Like, use your feelings. It's all about trust your feelings, search your feelings. You know it to be true. It's like, even though I think that was Vader, but still, they use feelings a lot. They use emotion a lot.
Reach out with your feelings. I mean, that was Obi-Wan,
And I think-
and Qui-Gon says it too.
Yeah, and in the Clone Wars, Obi-Wan to Anakin, I think it was after the Clovis arc, he was like, it's not that we're not allowed to have these emotions. You know?
Yeah, he's giving Anakin the talk finally after like 20 plus years.
Yeah. There's also season 7 of Clone Wars when Bo-Katan says the thing, and I'm not about Bo-Katan slander, or at least, sorry, some of it's good, but she deserves love and redemption like every single other character in Star Wars that people give that to. But in season 7 of Clone Wars, when she brings up Satine to Obi-Wan, I thought she meant something to you, and you're like, this bitch. Like, but
that was a low blow.
But what does Obi-Wan say? I can't let my emotions control me in this matter. He's going to take it to the council. It's not that he doesn't have them; they just don't control him, and that's absolutely true. I had Connor Bablak in the chat say, "Attack the Clones is so underrated."
It is
100%. I feel like Attack the Clones
and overhated.
Yeah, I think it answers so many questions that people have, but if you never rewatch that and only rewatch Revenge of the Sith, you like miss a good chunk of Anakin's fall, explanations on the galaxy at that point in time, what the Jedi actually believe, and that
how they were forced into this war.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, talking about emotion, Obi-Wan had constant annoyance as his emotion throughout that entire movie.
Yeah. Galactic Mermaid also said, I think there's a scene where Vernestra explains the emotions thing to Imri too. Not sure which High Republic. It was a test of courage where she tells him that they are allowed to be angry. It's when that anger controls them is when it becomes a path to the dark side. So yeah, there was a lesson on being allowed to grieve, allowed to mourn, allowed to be angry, and be frustrated. Because Emery thought too that you had to repress all of that, but that's not what they teach. In fact, you can point to the Jedi code that the Kreesh masters tell the younglings.
He is so bitchy at attacking the clone.
In Obi-Wan's defense, I always like to consider things from people's point of view. Imagine you are about to be executed, and who walks in but your Padawan and the girl he was sent to protect, and you're like, are you freaking kidding me? Yeah, I mean,
you had one job, Anakin, just the one.
But so I keep going, Pep.
Oh no, I was gonna just close it out by saying like an easy way to kind of reconcile with what the Jedi teach is the version of the code that is said to younglings in the Kreesh, which is recited in Kanan issue 7. I'll only say the first line: emotion, yet peace.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like there is no. It's like it's kind of like a lost in translation of a code that's been thousands of years like translated, and like this kind of modern code that Depa Balaba says to the younglings. It makes more sense. Like you're hoping for that stuff, but not for them to control you. So
I definitely think we should see that how the Jedi became so dogmatic, because I was reading the High Republic comic books for like a huge point. Things seem like so different and a lot more chill about things. And one of the I think it was the book it was the comic series following the younglings. They pick up the kid who's force sensitive, and they say, we can't really train you, but we're still going to look after you and whatnot. With Anakin and Phantom Menace, you don't really get that vibe that they're going to look after Anakin or just and not train him. It's kind of just like, what are we going to do with you?
Yeah, absolutely. Julie Christine says, hot take. Emotions aren't good or bad. It's all how you respond to them. Letting your emotions overwhelm you isn't good. Actually, it can ruin your life, and that's true. And for everyone. And then something Christian White said earlier. He just let me find it. Can't find it, but he mentioned about how Luke didn't make Leia like divorce Han to train um, but at no point would Leia ever let emotions get in front of what she needed to do.
Oh
Like we
no.
already know that, like Leia's
Well, also
Leia's a
like
badass.
at what point was the new academy established versus when they got married?
Sure.
Yeah, I mean they were already married by that point.
He doesn't
Yeah.
have any like real framework outside of like after he goes on the adventures with Lor San Tekka to find all of the old books.
I really wish that Luke can I really wish he took more pages out of the High Republic than as opposed to the regular Republic era Jedi.
I hope if we get more from Luke in that time period, that there is some mention. Because
I
like
don't-
if you look in the Last Jedi, like if you strip away the myth and look at their deeds, like a lot of it points to the prequel era. But
Yeah.
if like within the 30 years we don't have, he like points to like, there was a time where the Jedi were like rock stars.
No, they are in the High Republic. That's why I thoroughly enjoy that era, and I'm going to dive more into it when I get time. But it's like for me personally, the thing that's really been missing in Star Wars has been the Jedi. Like for like a lot of it in the sequels, we technically don't get it. We technically don't get Jedi a lot in the sequels. Like in Force Awakens, Luke shows up at the end, and in Last Jedi, it's the line's a little muddied at that point, and in Rise of Skywalker, we just have the one technically, and it's just I don't. That's one of the things I don't really like about Star Wars overall. But
Yeah, there's a whole period of time. I mean, that's the way I saw it. I always saw it is that there's a whole period of time that this story is just not about. But
yeah,
hopefully, we'll get those stories told to us.
but what's the worst take you guys have heard?
Oh man, it's like there's so many. It literally is finding a haystack and a bunch of needles. If
Yeah,
that makes sense.
no, it makes perfect sense.
So they all hurt.
But I mean, the worst take is what I just made a video about, that the Sith are actually the heroes. They're the good
Oh,
guys, not the Jedi are bad. And you're like,
Didn't that come from one of those videos?
yeah, it started from one of yours. That's the worst take of like,
My
if you can
fault,
watch that all of Star Wars, any of Star Wars, and end up with like, no, I think that Palpatine guy, he was making the tough choices that the galaxy needs, and you're like, then they go on to proceed. Then they proceed to blame the Jedi. At least in this particular case, they proceeded to blame the Jedi for not stopping all of the things that the Sith were actively doing, and that's why the Jedi were bad. And you're like, but the Sith were doing those things. So like you would think the person doing it, I don't know.
I've had that discussion like way too many times. Like whenever I defend the Jedi, you always have someone that says that they're worse than the Sith. Like last guys I responded to said that the Empire has nothing on the Jedi when the Empire sterilized Genosha not Genosha, the Geonosians. They enslaved the Wookiees just straight up, like and glass the planet Mandalore. Like that planet was already a desert, and they made it a worse one now.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's the worst take, but it's a take that makes me like
Operation Center.
purse my face almost. I want to address what Hoodberry said. Why did Ahsoka pass judgment on Grogu so quickly because of his attachment to Din? The little dude can't even speak yet. My interpretation of that scene is that she feels exactly what Yoda feels when he senses Anakin. Much anger I sense in you. Like, your thoughts, or, well, Ki-Adi-Mundi says this, but he's like, your thoughts dwell on your mother. So it's like, she senses all of these things that could potentially go wrong with someone with such an attachment.
Yeah.
That's why she said that she passes judgment.
Also, she's busy girl bossing it. Like, she's not ready to train. She's not like,
Yeah.
I'm not taking him on.
Although I would love to see a student trained by Ahsoka, like legitimately speaking. Whoever she would train would be like an A1 Jedi or whatever.
No. All right, Harvey. What's the verdict?
I've done a quick trip around the galaxy to hopefully sort out my audio issues, so hopefully that's better.
It is.
Beautiful.
Hey, yeah, I switched to PC. I ditched the mobile.
Awesome. And the background is also perfect. And I used to rock that one myself.
I was gonna say, I'm sure I saw that on a Star Wars Theory stream or something.
Yeah.
Respect.
All right. Since you haven't been able to share much, what's your go-to? What's something else that pops up that you're tired of explaining, or bad takes that you see?
Right. Well, it started out as a joke, but I know Darth Veritas and I share this. We're very tired of explaining why we don't like Ki-Adi-Mundi.
Can someone please explain that to me? Because I don't understand. I never understood why everyone hates that man.
Well,
aside from the harem.
It kind of started out as a joke, in the way that it was like someone threw out the crazy theory that, well, if Ki-Adi-Mundi didn't interrupt Yoda by saying, what about the droid attack on the Wookiees, then Order 66 would never have happened, and Anakin wouldn't have turned to the dark side and whatnot, because then Yoda wouldn't have gone, good relations with the Wookiees I have, and gone off to Kashyyyk. If like Ki-Adi-Mundi was that interested in helping the Wookiees, he should have gone himself. Clearly, he didn't care too much. Sent Yoda off to do it anyway. But if Yoda was then staying at the Jedi Temple, he would have gone to arrest Palpatine with Mace Windu, and then their combined strength would have defeated Palpatine and kept Anakin at bay as well, thus saving the galaxy. So that was how it started, as kind of a joke in that way. But then kind of realized, yeah, he's a bit more. When you say the Jedi are dog-minded, I think that's encapsulated with Ki-Adi-Mundi as well. The way that he's first to say, nope, no Sith. It hasn't happened for a long time, so this definitely isn't the case now.
He's a political idealist.
Not a murderer.
He's the first person to accuse Ahsoka, obviously, and a host of other things. I just don't like his demeanor,
Well,
I just don't like his face.
I can't get the image out of my mind of Mace and Yoda together mollywhopping Palpatine.
That's totally how that would have happened.
And then Anakin walks in. I need him, and then Yoda goes, "No."
The first lightning that shoots out, a Mace comes out and deflects it, and then underneath, in between his legs, pops out Yoda and force pushes Palpatine.
That reminds
Mace
me
when he
what I'm
turns to
tired
the
of
right.
explaining.
Have a seat.
Oh god. Oh man. That's a very, very valid answer to dislike Ki-Adi-Mundi, because almost never anyone brings up the whole trial with Ahsoka, because that's like a real dick move. And especially when he said that this is the sign of a true Jedi Knight. Prick, you were one of the first ones to accuse her. Like, and while we're on the topic of that, question, didn't that bombing happen when she wasn't there?
Correct, and that's why they were asked to investigate in the first place. But it was as if they had planned and orchestrated and set the parts in motion where they could be off world when it happened. That's what the implications were. But
that's a declaration of war with that sentence.
I appreciate the explanation, because for me, I'm a big fan of the expanded universe. I've read tons of stuff of Legends, and Kiaramuni is kind of a scumbag in the expanded universe, and so
Wait,
I
he
always
is?
assumed.
Is that with the wife thing and the kids? Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah,
Right.
he was pumping out kids. He had a whole bunch of wives, but he just didn't care. Like he just literally didn't. Like for him, it was a transaction. The only reason he was allowed to do it was as a baby making machine. Like he was a part-time baby maker, um, and yeah, didn't care when they died and all this stuff. And so it was like, yeah, that's kind of messed up. But again, that was all in the expanded universe, so that was different.
Christian White says, to be fair, all the Jedi were against Ahsoka, even Plo Koon. I don't think that's
No.
true. I think
No.
a lot of them were operating on a set of evidence and information that's all they had to go on. A lot of them were hoping, including Plo Koon. A lot of them were hoping that it was wrong.
No, you're absolutely right there, Element. Like when they're when she has her fake trial with the Jedi, Plo Koon, the way Plo Koon asks her a question, it's so she can give a good answer. Like he's still held out hope. And also, the next time anybody watches those episodes, look at the way they divide Obi-Wan, Anakin, Plo Koon, and Mace Windu, Sazi Tin, and Kiadi Mundi. You have the three or four, including Yoda, that believed Ahsoka that she was innocent or held out hope, versus the three that thought she was guilty, or in Mace's case, just bowed under the Senate. Unfortunately, like when I looked at that, I was like, wow, that like you have the reason why she wants to stay, but these three are the reason why she has to leave, because you didn't believe me at all. And oh man, like that trial is like one of the it's like the smoking gun to hate the Jedi, to be honest, in some ways, because you guys bowed under the Senate when you really actually did not have to. Sure, like
Hot take.
what?
Hot take. I don't, with the information they were operating from, I don't disagree with them, because here's the thing.
It was stacked against her.
Imagine they were not condemning her of that crime, right? They were saying this is what will allow you to go to an actual trial, right? Because like it was civilians and military people that died. And so I think that whenever there is like some crazy thing that happens legally inside of a religious organization, I don't want the religious organization, to say, we're going to handle this in house. You know what I mean? Like that that part makes me uncomfortable. And so that's why I don't disagree with them doing this to let the Republic try them, not them convicting her specifically.
Yeah.
No,
The
I see what you're
expulsion
saying.
wasn't a declaration of guilt or a verdict. It was
But
that.
But it's still
while we're talking about Ahsoka, this brings me to my next one. Ahsoka's not a great Jedi.
Yes.
oh my god.
She couldn't be
Neither
further
is
from
Qui
it.
Gon.
No, he's not. Like, no. Neither is Mace. Well, we're on the topic.
But she has
There's
white
no-
lightsabers. That's how you know she's a great
Neither-
Jedi. And you're like,
Neither is any
No.
Jedi
How is that even
you
connected?
profess to be your favorite Jedi.
Yeah,
Because that's
no.
the thing that happened like in the 2000s. It's like whoever your favorite Jedi was, like, oh, they're a great Jedi.
I think that just like people, I really think that term, like that, the idea of a great Jedi got popularized with people trying to distance themselves from the dogmatic view of the Jedi, because before it popped around definitely before we had the High Republic, and not everyone knew of the Old Republic stories. So like the main things for Jedi we saw were Clone Wars era, and like they are dogmatic and have several freaking issues, like being in the middle of a war. But that, and people really think the Sith are way too cool, and like on a base level, no one's wowed by the abilities of Jedi typically.
Yeah. For what Julia said, also the plot did happen. Barris did it. They weren't that off base in determining what happened. We just happened to know the truth, and which is exactly the problem with a lot of these people who have these kind of takes on how things went, how things played out with the Ahsoka trial. It's like, yes, we have omniscience in this. We can see clearly Ahsoka didn't do it, right? We could see she's being set up. Not. I keep on saying this. Like, there are way too many people blaming the Jedi for that trial, and not enough people blaming Barris for setting up Ahsoka.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that is so as well. Chase Forward into Black says, "How does Luke, Mary Sue Skywalker, know how to pull the lightsaber out of the snow on Hoth?" And I just wanted to quickly address that, because that is a thing that does get tiring of understanding, of explaining, is that there's a disconnect between the training required to do things, and that it's not a length of time. It's about understanding. And if something, I happen to grow up with an older sister who's immensely talented. Literally everything she did, it was irritating. She learned how to ollie and do frontside shove-its on the very first day she started skateboarding. And within 3 days, she could heel flip. She couldn't kick flip for some reason, but she could heel flip. I grinded like I felt like freaking Rock Lee kicking a tree while Neji was out here spinning around. Like, it took me a lot to learn certain things, but it doesn't, because of the length of time I spent, it didn't mean I was better than her at it. And yeah, that's just a thing. But my big question for that scene in Empire Strikes Back: how did he get on the ceiling? What did? Listen, did the Wampa like lick the ceiling to melt it and stick his feet up there and then hold him there until it freezes? What happened? How did he get up there?
Why did it stick him? Wait, more importantly, why did it stick him up there? Why didn't it just eat him off rip?
Was it hanging up there so it could like get some hits in there, like a heavy bag or something?
He's trying to smoke Luke.
I believe the punching bag, because that Wampa was kind of ripped. He got to get his gains going. Just going at it.
He already had food in the corner, and that was entertainment. Yeah. I got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Canon.
Although, like that scene of 3PO ripping off that cyan, like a trooper getting dragged in by a Wampa.
I love that.
He was saving a snack in the freezer.
Ice pop time.
He was hoping he'd freeze in that position like an otter pop. And that's what he's going for. I don't know. Sorry to go wildly off, but go ahead, Pat.
The other thing that I had, which is also a bad take, is the Jedi trained child soldiers. I'm just gonna say a few words. I'm just gonna let the floor take it. They're victims of circumstance. Palpatine ordered Padawans to join the war. Palpatine made the Jedi Military Integration Act, and without the war, where does your argument go? If the Jedi are largely at peace for thousands of years, the Clone Wars doesn't happen, and it's just a peaceful time, are they still training soldiers, or is it contingent on the Clone Wars? Because the Jedi trained negotiators, diplomats, peacekeepers, and they were basically a vocational school with like a karate class added on top of that. So they knew how to defend themselves. And if there's no war, there's no soldiers.
I was picturing a trade school where they're like, all right, we're going to teach you plumbing and Muay Thai. And you're like, oh, that's weird.
But it's still like the argument falls apart when you don't have a war, right?
No, the thing that's also hard to kind of imagine is that the Clone Wars lasted for 3.5 years. That's not. I mean, that's long for a war. Don't with active battles, right? But like, it started so abruptly and also ended abruptly. They weren't training children for war.
Yeah.
Those kids were literally just the most able to help keep populations from being wholesale slaughtered by droids.
No, absolutely. Like again, I feel like overall, when it comes to any argument against the Jedi, people really weirdly love shifting the blame off of Palpatine when he is the direct cause for a lot of things, especially the whole child soldiers thing, because he ordered them to constrict the younglings into fighting. That was their thing, and even still, how many younglings do we actually really see on oh no, we never see any
The
younglings on the
younglings didn't.
battlefield.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was the
they never
Padawans.
fought. It was the Padawans, and we only see what four, I think, like four Padawans that were active in battle, like Ahsoka.
Surprisingly,
Do we see
most of the
4?
Padawans died in the Battle of Geonosis.
Oh, dark, but
I mean, that's why
but,
we only see Barriss, Ahsoka. I don't think we see any other Padawans after that.
Cal and Kanan
Yeah.
or Caleb,
Um,
but
and yeah, and when we see Barriss later, she's a knight.
wait, she was a knight.
Yeah, when all the stuff happens with the framing of Ahsoka and all that stuff, she was a knight then. She's like 21 years old at that point in time.
Yeah, and she didn't.
She's older than Ahsoka.
Yeah, I just realized like that you don't really see the like her hair, like the way her design was. It was different, and which is one of the things I love about when Jedi go from youngling to knight. They change their wardrobe a bit.
Yeah.
It's like going to like it's like going to like Rodeo Drive, just walking past a dojo that's teaching ninjutsu, and you're like, them's training assassins, aren't they? We need to report them. They're training child assassins.
Yeah, like yeah, no one bats an eye when kids train in martial arts. Um, but yeah, no, it's wrong for it's a very stupid take that people
No.
say. God, I hate it.
Are they
all
child
right, so
soldiers?
let's,
yes, during the Clone Wars, but they weren't trained for that. So
Yes.
Yeah, but it's even still, it's the equivalent of if you trained kids in or teenagers in martial arts, and then you're like, you know what, we just won a tournament, we're all going on a cruise, and then people hijacked the cruise, and you're like, yes, these kids are going to fight. Did I train them to fight hijackers? No. But we're in a situation where this is needed.
everyone needs to watch Three Ninjas.
Yes.
I actually seen that film.
That's awesome.
There was a whole
But,
period of movies in the 90s that was just kids in weird places.
Your favorite is definitely
Surf
Colt.
Ninjas.
Yeah.
What was does anyone else remember the baseball movie where the kid broke his arm and it healed in a weird way and then he
Rookie of the
became a
Year.
pitcher? Rookie of the Year. I was just talking about that. Yes.
No.
Yeah,
don't
there's
remember
a
that one.
it was a whole time period.
Oh yeah, like
Funky
the
butt
movie.
lover.
Has anyone ever seen the movie Basketball?
Yeah.
That might be a
Yeah.
little. Okay, great. I'm alone.
This is good. All right, let's go. We'll go around and we will each pick. Do one last one. And also after that, we want to hear all the bad takes from the people in the comments as honorable mentions, and then we'll get closing out. All right. So yeah, let's go around the circle one last time, and we'll start with Terrace.
This thing that I'm tired of explaining. Yoda didn't lose the fight to Sidious. Like the lightsaber section of their encounter, and Sidious, like people think that just around Sidious's lightsaber skills in general, people think he's like the greatest guy ever. But here's the thing: whether he threw the fight with Mace or um, he beat Yoda technically, the only person he's ever beaten in a lightsaber duel straight up is Maul. So that's what, one victory and two undecisive. If these guys have their way, yeah, no, Mace beat him, kicked the lightsaber right out of his hand, and
Out the window.
oh yeah, out the window, no less. And when he fights Yoda, we see them scrap with their lightsabers, and then we cut to Sidious literally running away, and then resorting to the Force. Hell, Sidious didn't even want the fight. Yoda straight up tells him, or ask him, if so powerful, why leave?
He's like,
Yeah, you got
I'm
disarmed.
late to the Senate. I gotta go.
Yeah,
I know I think it's only canon through one of like the junior novelizations of Revenge of the Sith, but he does. Yeah, he straight up disarms Palpatine, and you know, it's if you look at the faces at the very end, who looks like they're losing?
Palpatine.
The Palpatine who's like, oh,
Yeah, and
or
Yoda's-
Yoda going like, I'm about to beat you, bitch.
yeah,
like-
just straight up. And
Mossman is like, I gotta get out of here.
oh my god. Going into quickness.
And what does Yoda say? He says, I failed. And he did. He failed, but he didn't lose.
Yes,
I mean,
that's
kind of on the same topic, like losing an individual fight doesn't necessarily mean you are a worse fighter than
Yes.
that person.
yeah, no, absolutely.
There's extenuating circumstances. Like if you know, I don't know, like if you get shot in the side with a bowcaster, you might lose a fight. Like if I shot Floyd Mayweather with a shotgun in the stomach, I'd whoop his ass. You know, I can't say I'm a better fighter.
Yeah. Like
He'd probably still get a good counter on you, though.
No,
You
I'd probably
could.
still lose.
I mean,
Unless I just
shot.
punch his wound. But if he fought
Yeah.
someone before me,
Yeah, like that's another thing. I don't really get how people just forget all when it comes to Kylo losing that fight specifically. I don't understand how people just eliminate all sense of nuance from that. He took a shot from the bowcaster, like you said, Joker, and fought Finn a second ago. Dude's a little winded, but when we pick up in Rise of Skywalker, when they fight again, he's dominated that engagement. Rey only is able to win because she snuck him. Like
Mm-hmm.
it
outside
did,
hope.
yeah. Just we did not see the same movie apparently.
Every time that fight is discussed, I go to Hunter x Hunter. If you've seen Hunter x Hunter, it's a great anime. You should watch it. It's on Netflix. But one of the mentors is teaching the two kids how fights are won, and they said, and they said skill and power does not mean a thing in the fight, because person A, who is more powerful than person B, person A's worst day can lose to person B's best day. So, like, if you are less powerful than someone and that someone is having a bad day, you could beat them.
Yes, no, like
C.E. Grooms, you're an anime fan? Sorry, I just
Yeah. I mean, Groom Reds probably knows the scene I'm talking about when Biscuit is explaining to Gon, you know, it doesn't matter if you're weaker. That person could just be having a really bad day, and you can get a really good shot on them.
no, absolutely. That's how Muhammad Ali lost a lot of his fights. Like not that they were better. It's just he, like you said, yeah.
yeah, and then there's obviously the narrative factor. Like fights are meant to tell a story, and what is a story
Yes.
being told? And unfortunately, Maul is on the bottom half of that story being told every time. But yeah, all right. How about you, Harvey? What it's is there any other ones that you have in mind or on the list?
Well, one that goes without saying, the Rey Skywalker thing, but I mean, I don't think we have to talk about that. I like
Paris
the
just
whole.
died. Just to mention.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Stupid.
Keep going.
Yeah,
Skill to die on.
going back to the whole versus thing though. Yeah, circumstance makes the fight, and when people are like, oh, well, why didn't Anakin go down the stream a bit more and then hop on and whatever? And it's like, well, it's the circumstance. He's
Yes.
aggravating him. He knows him. He'll jump over, prove himself, shoot himself in the knee. It's circumstance is what wins the battle in a lot of ways. And then because when people say like, oh, this person would beat this person because they beat that person and then that person beat that person, so then
Power
therefore,
scaling 101.
yeah, it's a bit redundant when circumstance wins a lot of battles. So that's a big one.
Nope. Power scaling. Because Rey ended up beating Palpatine, and technically Palpatine beat Yoda. Rey beats Yoda in a fight. Right? That's how it works, right?
Yeah.
No.
Wait a second. Hold on. If Dooku beat Obi-Wan and Anakin beat Dooku, but Obi-Wan beat Anakin, like it just doesn't work, right?
No. It does
I'd
not
like
work.
to add on top of this one, because it's the same conversation. Midichlorians are not power levels.
Yes.
Oh yeah, no.
There you go.
Yeah.
Like, that was. I love the prequels, but sometimes they like some of the things they tried to get, some of the messages they tried to get across did not hit as well as they should.
Every time someone like points to Anakin's midichlorian count, I'm just like picturing. So, are we gonna get like a Anakin at 9 years old headbutting Sidious like Gohan and Raditz?
Okay,
Could
you
Anakin
say
at
that,
9?
but I would love when Gohan goes Super Saiyan 2, and then we get Goku behind him, like he kind of like ghostly helping out with that Kamehameha. I need a scene like that, but it's Kid Anakin and Qui-Gon.
That would have been interesting.
That's a can of worms right there.
I like that
DBZ
I like
in Star
that picture in my head.
I'm
Oh,
saying,
good God, no! Let's not put those two fandoms together.
oh yeah. All right. How about you, Pep? Last one.
I mean, I think that's just it. Like, really quickly. Other than like balance in the Force, which it's long been canonized for a couple months now. The
Yeah,
river
it's
flow.
the same amount of Sith and Jedi.
Exactly.
It's
gonna
not
go.
that, people.
Just kidding. Yeah, I mean, I was excited when Secrets of the Sith kind of canonized interpretation, and then we got Anakin in Shadow of the Sith telling Luke that the Force is a river and it needs to flow. And I remember my first conversation with Chaco in episode 3 of High Ground, we were like, it's the flow. And now, like, now that it has been largely canonized, that interpretation, it does get tired. I do get tired explaining it's not equal parts Sith or equal parts Jedi. It's not even equal parts light and dark. It's just the Force's ability to flow from light to dark. And when George Lucas says balance is light, it just means that the light side and the Force users who use the light don't impede the flow. And we don't have to talk about overflowing things, do we? No, we're not going to.
No, I'm not doing that.
As if the Force could be contained and has like a finite space.
And everyone in the chat, start putting up your, the bad takes you hear or the things you're tired of hearing explained or having to watch be explained. there's for my last one, I'm whew, there's a lot. Should I do canon and legends? No. I'm gonna go with the Holdo maneuver.
Uh,
Listen, not everything in Star Wars is
lightsaber
perfect.
There's a lot. There's a lot.
There's a lot I would love to, to talk about. Uh, but just really quickly running through the whole maneuver. Yes, she collided before entering hyperspace, and specifically the part because people have largely been able to accept that part, but people are like, but it ruins all battles in the past because why wouldn't you? And you're like, yeah, it's the same reason why Lewis and Clark didn't drive a Jeep Grand Cherokee on their exploits. It didn't exist. You can't say why didn't you do something that hadn't been invented previously because that is just kind of dumb. And all of these things were invented. Like if you've ever watched Shark Tank and something got invented and you're like, no one's thought of that before. Correct. Because it's solving a problem. The problem was they couldn't escape through hyperspace. So they had to do something new and different. That situation had never come up before. But like that was a Hail Mary at best. That is at the buzzer. You throw a half-court shot. And the other team could have blocked it, but they're like, nah, that's not going in. But you somehow made it.
They were about
and
to,
then
like,
after
the orders went out. Fire on that ship.
But after all that said, you make the shot, right? And you get to overtime, and you still lose. But like everyone goes, if you could make that shot, how come that's not the only shot you ever taken? How come people in previous games didn't do that shot? Like that doesn't work.
It gets frustrating.
It doesn't. Well, you could just make a droid and have the droid do it, and you're like, have the droids ever been that precise in Star Wars? If they were, how would the Clone Wars work? Like, if droids could like calculate that, wouldn't they just hit every shot they ever took?
Yeah.
I actually, one thing I always wondered, because there was these sniper droids in the Clone Wars, like in a single episode, they had Anakin and Ahsoka pinned down, but they were able, since there was two of them, they were able to hit each other's droid in order to take them down. And I was like, they should just make a bunch of those and then have them sync up and all fire at the same time at a single target and just nuke them one by one. But that's just not how it works.
That and the droid army is like the separatists were kind of lazy.
Yeah.
Like the commando or that and cheap, because like the super battle droids were really the commando droids were really great, but we only saw like a few of them because they were like uber expensive.
That's all very true. And
it's also just very impractical as a tactic.
No.
Yeah.
Also, this is a story being told. Like, if you wanted more efficient things, only Imperial Stormtroopers are this precise. There just wouldn't be any Star Wars. You know what I mean? No. Like, you watch a James Bond movie, he's got a handgun that holds 8 bullets, but he's shooting snipers out of crow's nests. They all have sniper rifles. They can't hit him, but he can like just pop off all right. Yeah, that's just how it works. Christian Wright says, my hot take, at least among my community, is that I like Legacy of the Force and Fate of the Jedi. People roast me for liking Troy Danning stuff. I love both Legacy of the Force and Fate of the Jedi.
What novels were those?
These are Legends novels.
Right.
Jaina Solo is my queen.
New Jedi
Legacy of the Force is they're after NJO. They're after the Joiner Nest trilogy, which is just terrible. The Krellin trilogy. But this is where Jason Solo, Darth Caedus falls to the dark side. That's Legacy of the Force. That whole story is Legacy of the Force. And then after that is Fate of the Jedi. Now, I love Fate of the Jedi. I hate Abeloth. I could never talk about Abeloth. I think Abeloth is disgusting, and doesn't even make sense that she loses. She can literally just make full copies of herself and have them run around, and you're like, how do you beat that?
Yeah.
She just
I
got
stopped
tired.
reading-
It was like, no thanks.
I stopped reading very early in New Jedi Order. That's why I never got to Fate or Legacy.
Yeah,
I've always kind of wanted to dive into those books just to see what like Luke's Legends Jedi Order was like, because for me, my exposure to Legends was like legacy stuff, dealing with his like I don't know how many great grandson Cade, and in that era, like the Jedi had been wiped out again. So
yeah, it's a mixed bag. That's the other thing. I find a lot of people that are really into Legends that I speak to now are usually a bit younger than me. Like they jumped into it later in life, meaning there was already like over 300 books to choose from, and so they found the best ones, or ones that are just really popular, and so they believe that this is the quality of all of the books, and it's not.
it's not.
Luke's Jedi Academy journey is pretty open and pretty out there. There wasn't a council for a long time, and then it got super problematic to have random Jedi running around the galaxy, affecting their own justice. So he had to create a Jedi Council. There's a bunch of things, but yeah. So all right. Let's go through the chat really quick, and see our honorable mentions. And I didn't skip anyone. I got you right, Pep.
Yeah.
All right, cool. All right. So we had lightsaber colors.
Yes.
Yeah.
Especially,
Go ahead, Trouble.
I was going to say, especially in the EU, like in Legends, they all had a color already when you pick them up, which means they can't signify things about the person.
Yeah, like in the 2003 Clone Wars, we see that they're like when Barriss and Luminara are making their lightsabers, we see just all the colors up there. We see not red, excuse me. We see blue, green, and purple throughout the cavern on Ilum.
Yeah, I mean, and so those were already ones that come from other people, but yeah, absolutely. Galactic Mermaid says that Obi-Wan was responsible for Anakin's fall, and I'm going to couple that with saying people who say that Padme was responsible for
I saw that
fall.
also
I've
in
never
the
heard
chat.
that
Yeah.
one actually. I've always heard Mace Windu, the Jedi. I've never heard Padme though. I don't know if that's a
Consider
big
yourself
thing
lucky.
for you.
People,
Yeah,
I'm so sick of people saying that Mace was the reason why he fell. Like for me specifically, there's like a sort of personal story with that. Like when Mace denies Anakin the rank of master, it's for good reason. Anakin, like he has the skill. They always say that's never been his issue. It's his maturity, which he just does not have to be at that level, which I respect for Mace because doing Taekwondo for so long, eventually you'll start testing other people for rank and whatnot. And my first test that I did for a kid, I should have failed them. I should have absolutely failed that child. They did not perform well enough. But I bowed under pressure because their mom was there and I didn't want to embarrass the kid. So I passed them. They didn't do anything with their rank and like dropped out like a few months after that. But point still stands. It's that it says something to Pat to give him that rank. And especially because it wasn't like they weren't giving Anakin the idea to get Anakin the rank of master was not something that was proposed by the Jedi. It was Palpatine. Like, come on now.
Yeah, and also just along to add to that, it wasn't Mace that denied him though. That was the vote of the whole council.
Yes,
right.
That too.
So the thought of like, oh, if he had stayed, then Mace would have came back and given him the time. No, it'd have to do another vote. You know.
Yeah.
Although
I think
normalize
although
not giving people things to
Yeah,
avoid
exactly.
them going on, like having a tantrum of
Oh yeah, no,
galactic
absolutely.
It's a
proportions.
very childish. It's like the kid
Yeah.
who he'll throw a tantrum if I don't give him what he wants.
Yeah.
Forward and back
Personally,
says physics in general, which is also
It's
true. My
non-existent.
favorite. I mean, seeing X-wings like drop in like fighter jets is cool. There's no air in space. They wouldn't move like that. It would
No.
just be all Newtonian physics. You know.
I think the
Also-
best display of physics is Battlestar Galactica.
also we
Mhm.
wouldn't hear any of the space battles if like we were
Or
being
see
like as
explosions and
yeah.
lasers
Like,
and
I had-
stuff would just be clear. You wouldn't see what's happening. Also, even now, combat happens so far away from each other, the ships don't see each other. That'd be so boring. Asteroid belts. You see an asteroid belt. Asteroids are like hundreds of miles away from each other. There's no
Yeah.
dodging and weaving. That's not a thing. It's okay. But sorry, like you can jump in real quick, but I do want to hit them fast. Padme being a groomer. That
Oh
was my favorite.
god.
While we're on Padme, what was the reasoning that people give for Padme making Anakin turn to the dark side?
That Padme was an enabler, and that's the reason why. But like, what an enabler protects someone from the consequences of their own actions. It's still their own actions, you know. And while she did enable him in certain things, she
Like with the
also
Clover situation.
she also kept going like, hey, we need to talk to Obi-Wan. And he's like, what? I don't need to talk to Obi-Wan. And then also Anakin, this may be it's kind of sociopathic behavior to murder a bunch of kids and then go to your wife and be like, hey baby, what's going on? Like, I don't know.
It was so casual about it, dude. Like, didn't you seriously just do that? Like,
I hate
really just like a bunch of kids too. Like little. God, man.
Forward to back is Leia surviving in space, but Anakin and Obi-Wan surviving for 10 inches from lava. If you don't touch it, it doesn't hurt you. I don't care that it's over 4,000 degrees.
I could not stand that people were so upset about Leia using the Force in space, but whatever.
And Kanan did it as well.
Yeah.
And so did
Steele did it.
Star-Lord. Anakin had split personalities.
That's
Satele
a
did
new
it
one
in
for
Fatal
me.
Alliance. You know, force barriers aren't
Yep,
a new
that's true.
concept.
And it's a weird concept because there's not really any like. That means Vader is still there, and he's a different personality. Like you just beat a mentally ill guy until his alter went away. That's super weird.
What is this, Moon Knight?
Force healing, it's a thing.
Grogu did it.
Amber said the same thing. You know, Anakin being blamed for the fall.
People really let the Force healing thing go. Like, it's weird. People complain about the Force healing thing, but then go around and say that being like calling the Jedi weak and whatnot.
Yeah.
Like, come on, pick a struggle.
This was the continuity between Legends and like the Clone Wars just doesn't work within the Legends continuity, and that was largely intentional. And you see that if you watch behind the scenes for the Clone Wars, is that George Lucas just didn't care. Like it was only Dave Filoni that would make an effort to try to include some of Legends continuity.
Yes.
Like George was like, oh, we're gonna do stuff with Mandalore, and if Dave is like, all right, here is like, let's go through all of this stuff, and George's like, oh, why? He's like, because just do it.
Yeah.
Let's see here.
Although one of my favorite bits of like Star Wars like trivia is like how the Darksaber came to be.
Yeah.
Just a disagreement of all things.
Any comment that follows the line of X ruined Star Wars?
Been there.
And they're like, if this is a Star Wars account. If it's ruined, why are you here?
Yeah. Oh God, man. So many people saying that about the sequels. I remember that one guy.
Luke's legacy was one of failure in Legends, just like the sequels. He didn't. but he didn't go Hermit, which I like way better. Yeah, Seagrams is a fan of Hermit, but like that's a real thing. In the expanded universe, Luke fell to the dark side. He became a
Yeah.
clone of Palpatine's apprentice. Did a bunch of really bad things. And when he came back, people cite like, oh, he didn't try to kill his nephew there, which is weird because he didn't try to kill Ben in canon. He absolutely tried to kill Jason in Legends a bunch and would have done it. And the only reason he didn't kill him was because if he did, he said he would fall back to the dark side. That's the only reason he wouldn't do it himself.
To be fair, he had a good reason in Legends.
Jason was like a little.
Yeah.
I mean, if you killed my wife, I'd be pretty upset.
Curly Coffee says because of Obi-Wan.
I don't want to hear any more about Obi-Wan. Because I was retweeting at chat on Twitter about The Last Jedi, and one of my old coworkers replied to me. There's a lot of parallels between Maverick and Luke in Top Gun Maverick. If you haven't seen that movie, it's really good.
I've heard
you can see a lot of parallels.
Well, we will be watching that shortly. Hoodbearer says AP5 is a better singer than Slice Noodles, which is just not true because Chicken Nomi, yeah. I feel like I hit that note. Don't worry about that.
You kind of did, but whatever.
Well, since you did that, you have to do the other one.
Lower.
That was spot on.
This is what happens when you get in a podcast with Lord Masters.
All right, so we've gotten through all of those. Thank you guys so much for giving us our honorable mentions. I apologize. I might have missed a few because scrolling wheels are not the most accurate thing sometimes. But thank you guys. I want to thank everyone here on the panel. If you have any last honorable mentions or just final thoughts, anything else you want to say, and then wrap it up with once again where we can find you and your amazing content, and we'll start with Terrace.
It's just, I guess, final thoughts is like it's fun being a Star Wars creator, but it can be a giant pain because there's so much misinformation floating around through some people on TikTok. A lot of Star Wars on YouTube is just a bad time, to put it nicely. But don't get me wrong, it's totally fun, but still, I can understand where some confusion comes from because if you don't know, you just don't know. But still, like some of the takes that people have left, like a lot of people think that Plo Koon, for example, like one of the worst takes I just cannot stand because I looked into it. A lot of people think that Plo Koon is like one of the strongest lightsaber duelists because apparently he beat Yoda in a duel. I asked someone about that, and they told me it came from a video game. And I know that video game because I own it. It was like the Star Wars lightsaber battles for the Wii. And it's a little bit of dialogue, like the smallest bit of dialogue between Anakin and Plo Koon. And people pass that off as gospel. Like, really? But yeah, other than that, it's pretty fun being a creator. You can find me on TikTok under the Jedi Always, as well as Instagram and Twitter under the Jedi Always.
All right, beautiful. And Harvey?
Darth Walker on TikTok. 2 R's because Darth Walker was taken. And Star Wars Celebration next year in my home country. Let's go.
Yeah,
I'll see you
we'll be
there.
hanging out there. You'll have to show us the ropes. We'll chill on your hood.
We'll have a lot of ropes to be shown.
Any recommendations on what we should do? Down over here in California, we did karaoke. I feel like over there we might sing drunken lullabies.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a few spots around. I know. I mean, I'm going to London in a couple of months again. I'm down there all the time because it's the main place for conventions and things like that. 3 places I always go in London. The Oxford Street Disney Store. They've got an upstairs section that's just Star Wars and Marvel, and they have things on display. There's also the Leicester Square Lego store, which is now the biggest Lego store in the world.
Nice.
And finally, Forbidden Planet, which is like the biggest comic book and memorabilia store I've ever seen. And then there's also the Rogue One, where they film Rogue One in the train station,
Ooh.
the underground station. And it's
Yeah,
right
I
next to
that
the
in.
XL, where the it's like one stop on the DLR from the XL where Celebration's being hosted. So I assume a lot of people will be stopping there on the way.
They're gonna be pissed.
Yeah,
But that's okay.
there's always like 50 people with lightsabers posing, and the attendants have no clue what's going on.
That sounds
and then
fun.
before going to Pep to close it out, I just want to respond to Christian White right here. Since we're talking
I
about
was
it,
going to
you guys
respond
want?
to that as my final thought.
Well, we could do both. Would you guys want Lucasfilm to continue Legends as a second continuity along with canon, or do you want them to stay the course and stick with just canon? I'm not sure how much into Legends you all read, but yeah, I would love to hear your, as someone that's like consumed tons of it. I'm curious what your guys' thoughts are. If we can do a quick lightning round, Terrace.
I think that would be interesting. Like, I would love to, one of my favorite characters from Legends was Cade Skywalker, and I like certain aspects of those stories, but I don't like the idea of buckling to certain fans because not everything needs to be like that first Sonic trailer where something needs to be criticized so heavily it needs to be changed, and that's kind of where I'm at. I personally think they should try to stay the course more with canon stories despite my issues with them, but at this point when it comes to the Star Wars fandom, sometimes you need to stick with your guns, and this is that time for me. Although I would love to see more of those legend stories, just maybe in like a Star Wars Visions type of vibe.
And Harvey?
Agreeing with your point, again, with the fans things, I can already imagine the Mike Zero thumbnail and titles when this news drops, if this happened, God. But so maybe not make like a whole continuity, but I would like to see more Legends things, like again, Star Wars Visions. And then if they give us a Force Unleashed 3 or something like that, highly unlikely, I think, but continuing that Legends story. Or, the new KOTOR remake, surely that's going to be Legends if there's like multiple choice things in it. So things like that. I'd love to see Legends contents here and there, but not necessarily. I don't know how I'd feel about if they made like a whole new continuity that wasn't canon and explored it in many different medias.
All right, and then I'll go, and then I'll let Pep finish out everything. I've read a lot of Legend stories. I love Legends. Like I said, I love Jaina Solo, love Saba 17. She's my big old scaly lizard queen. I wish that we got the Sword of the Jedi. I really do, but we didn't, and it's been 10 years. It's 10 years, this month or next month, or I guess 2 months. But it's been 10 years since all this that was shut down. Since it was Disney bought Star Wars, and I think it's time to be okay with where we left that universe. And I think we left it in a very good spot. But I speak to people on a daily basis that are new Star Wars fans. There's a lot of people that joined the Star Wars community during the pandemic and are often confused just because of the ordering of Star Wars. It's too much. It's too much. And I, as much as I love revisiting some of the old stories, they are very dated. They are very much products of their time. If you enjoyed the Courtship of Princess Leia, that like drugging and kidnapping Princess Leia to show her how much you love her is weird. You shouldn't do that, and that's something that doesn't fly, and it shouldn't fly. And see, are we just gonna ignore Splinter of the Mind's Eye and the holiday special? I'm gonna add the glove of Darth Vader and um the crystal star to that. There's some weird stuff in there. I think it's okay. I think we should let it go. But I will pass it on to Element for your thoughts on this, any closing thoughts, and where we can find you and your amazing content.
So I think it is infinitely more valuable to stick with canon, simply because it just makes it easier for people to all operate from the same pool of information, even though lots of people still don't know what is canon and what is Legends. It's just, it's kind of like MCU canon and comics canon. It has value in being able to distinguish between the two and what information you're working with when you're saying, oh, who would win in a fight, MC Wolverine or comics Wolverine. It's just easier to distinguish between the two. And I like having canon where you're able to just know what is or isn't. But that being said, I don't think they could continue with Legends as a separate continuity because it's a messy. What they could do is continue storylines from Legends and create micro continuities from that, like the Ninth Jedi continuity, the Lapa No Cho continuity, the Old Republic continuity, because the Old Republic is my favorite one. I would love more stories of Satil Shan for sure. Just in general, like if we could kind of like compartmentalize stories from Legends and continue those stories without having them being beholden to what is the mess of Legends overall, they could continue those stories. I mean, SOTOR is still continuing today.
Yeah.
So they're still adding stories to it. So it's not like they can't continue Legends. And where you can find me, of course, is here on YouTube. Diet in the Force is the channel. Me and Chaco seldomly get together and talk about issues and just post videos about us talking about those issues. But we also go live every Saturday at 5 p.m. Pacific for Diet in the Force, the live show. And on TikTok and Twitter, _Element7_.
Underscore
gang. Shout out to B Dazzler.
Awesome. Really quick, I do have to, because I always love using the Marvel kind of metaphor for it, because I love a lot of the X-Men stuff from Fox, and I think Logan capped it off perfectly. And that question is largely like asking, do you want the Fox X-Men continuity to continue? I would rather see it integrated into the MCU. That's and yeah, that's kind of where I am.
You can't tell me you didn't pop off when that happened in Multiverse of Madness, and then the motif from the animated series came on.
Yeah. Whenever that theme drops in whatever product, like actual, it's gonna be fire. It's gonna be so fire.
I'm just glad they chose it like as the official motif.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because it was always just the cartoon for us, but now it's like official. That's like the freaking. That's the drop.
Yes, that's the X-Men theme.
Also, I got to shout out Pod One's podcast. Get ready for Rings of Power tomorrow. I believe Pod One's podcast is going to be watching the first episode live on Screener. If you follow them, or please go follow them so that you can join them in that journey. And X-Men cartoon theme. Pep is going to be there watching it. I am new to that fandom, so I will be in the chat while they're all watching it, but it's going to be a good time. Anyways, we've gone on far too long. Thank you once again, my esteemed guests. You are wonderful people. Thank you so much for joining me. And everyone in the chat, CE Groom Rights, Pod One's Podcast, Amber Medina, Corelli Coffee Works, Christian White, Harris Productions, Hoodberries, Galactic Mermaid, Amber Medina, everyone, St. Pat, Dixon Download. Awesome. Love you all. We'll see you next week. And may the